The Azure restaurant sat on the corner of 5th and Madison like a glowing jewel box, all floor-to-ceiling windows and soft amber lighting that promised romance to anyone desperate enough to believe in blind dates. Claire Morrison stood outside, clutching her phone so hard her knuckles had gone white. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. Auburn hair she'd actually bothered to curl, falling past her shoulders, the green dress Jess had shoved into her hands that morning with a commanding, "Wear this or I'm picking your outfits for a month." She looked nice. She looked like someone who went on dates. She looked terrified. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Jess. "Stop standing outside like a creep. Owen is nice, normal, has a 401k. Go." Claire typed back with trembling fingers. "What if I just went home and adopted another cat instead?" The response came immediately. "You have 3 cats. Get your ass inside." She took a breath, let it out, pulled open the heavy glass door. The hostess looked up with the kind of smile that cost extra, bright, professional, and completely empty. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Morrison, table for 2 at 7:30. The woman's manicured nail traced down a leather-bound book. "Yes, right this way." Claire followed her through the restaurant, past tables filled with couples who all seemed to know exactly what they were doing, how to hold a wine glass, what fork to use, how to laugh at the right moment without it sounding forced. The hostess gestured to a table near the back. "Your server will be right with you." Claire slid into the seat, smoothing her dress beneath her. The chair across from her sat empty. She checked her phone. 7:28. Owen was probably just parking. Perfectly punctual accountants were always punctual. She looked around, taking in the restaurant properly now. White tablecloths, crystal glasses catching candlelight, soft piano music that probably cost more per hour than she made in a day teaching second graders their multiplication tables. Her eyes caught on the small number at the edge of the table. 17. Her reservation confirmation had said table 7. She pulled out her phone, squinting at the email. Table 7, not table 17. Oh no. The words came out as a whisper. She started to stand, cheeks already burning with embarrassment, when movement across from her made her freeze. A man settled into the chair she'd thought was waiting for Owen. He was not Owen. Owen's dating profile had shown a nice-looking guy with light brown hair and a friendly smile, wearing a sweater vest in one photo like he was auditioning for a community theater production of Dependable Boyfriend, the musical. This man looked like he'd never worn a sweater vest in his life. Dark hair touched with silver at the temples, despite him looking only mid-30s. Sharp jawline, eyes the color of winter storms. A suit that probably cost more than her car. He moved with the kind of precision that made the air around him feel heavier. Dangerous. The word popped into Claire's head unbidden. She started. "You're late." His voice matched everything else about him. Cold, controlled, the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. Claire's brain short-circuited somewhere between terror and confusion. Yes, traffic, sorry." What was she doing? She should tell him about the mistake, stand up, find the actual table 7, where poor Owen was probably wondering if he'd been stood up. But something in those gray eyes pinned her to her chair. The man picked up the wine menu without looking away from her. "You don't look like what I expected." "I get that a lot," Claire heard herself say. "People usually expect someone taller?" Was she making jokes? Her hands were shaking so badly she had to press them flat against her lap under the table. A waiter appeared at the man's elbow so quickly it was like he'd been waiting for some invisible signal. "Mr. Kane, your usual?" No. The man, Kane, kept his eyes on Claire. "The lady will order first." The waiter turned to her with an expression that looked almost like pity or fear, maybe both. "Just water, please, sparkling," Claire managed. "Wine," Kane said. It wasn't quite a question. "I don't really. The Chateau Margaux, 2 glasses." The waiter nodded and vanished. Claire's mind raced. The wrong table. She was at completely the wrong table. This man clearly thought she was someone else, probably, given the way he'd said she was late like it was a personal offense. She should tell him. She opened her mouth to do exactly that when Kane leaned back in his chair, and she caught a glimpse of something dark beneath his perfectly tailored jacket. A holster. He was wearing a gun. Her mouth closed. So, Kane folded his hands on the table. Long fingers, she noticed distantly. A thin scar across his left knuckle. Tell me what you think I should know. About what? Claire's brain screamed. She had no idea what this meeting was supposed to be about, what this man did, why he was armed in a restaurant that probably charged $40 for an appetizer. Well, she started, buying time, I think honesty is important. Something flickered across Kane's face. Surprise, maybe, or amusement. It was gone too quickly to tell. Honesty, he repeated. And communication. Being clear about expectations. I believe in being straightforward. No games. No games. Kane's mouth curved slightly at one corner. Not quite a smile. Something sharper. Refreshing. A man in a dark suit appeared at the edge of the table. Tall, muscular, with the same dangerous energy that surrounded Kane. He leaned down, whispering something in Kane's ear. Claire caught fragments. Petrov, north entrance, 15 minutes. Kane's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted, tightened. Excuse me a moment, he said, standing smoothly. He nodded to the man in the suit. Luca, stay. Then he walked away toward the back of the restaurant, moving through the crowd like water. People seemed to part from him without even realizing they were doing it. Claire stared at Luca, who had taken up a position slightly behind her chair. Guarding her? Guarding the table? I think there's been a mistake, she said quietly. Mr. Kane doesn't make mistakes. No, I mean, I'm not. She glanced around wildly and finally spotted him. Table 7. Actual table 7. A man in khakis and a button-down shirt, checking his phone with increasing frequency, looking toward the door, every few seconds. Owen, her actual blind date, who she'd completely abandoned to associate with an armed stranger who thought she was someone else. This was bad. This was so incredibly bad. Claire started to stand. I need to... The first gunshot shattered the front window. Glass exploded inward like a crystal waterfall, shards catching the amber light as they rained down on screaming diners. Claire's brain couldn't process what was happening fast enough. 1 second she'd been standing, about to apologize for the confusion. The next she was on the floor with 200 pounds of muscle and expensive suit crushing the air from her lungs. Kane had moved so fast she hadn't even seen him cross the room. Stay down. His voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. Another shot, then 3 more in rapid succession. The piano music had stopped. Someone was crying. Claire tried to lift her head, and Kane's hand pressed against her hair, forcing her face against the cold marble floor. I said down. She heard rather than saw what happened next. The smooth metallic sound of a gun being drawn. Kane's weight shifted off her slightly, and then gunfire. Close. So close, her ears rang with it. But Kane wasn't shooting wildly. Each pull of the trigger was deliberate, measured, like he was at a practice range instead of a restaurant full of civilians. Luca, back exit, now. Kane's hand fisted in the fabric of Claire's dress, hauling her up. Move. Claire's legs didn't want to work. Her heels caught on something, broken glass, a fallen purse, she didn't know, and she stumbled. Kane didn't slow down. He half dragged, half carried her toward the back of the restaurant, Luca materializing in front of them like a shadow with a gun. The kitchen doors burst open under Luca's shoulder. Heat and light and the smell of something burning hit Claire's face. Chefs in white coats pressed themselves against the walls, hands raised. Smart people, people who knew when to stay out of the way. Through there, Luca pointed to a door marked emergency exit. They crashed through it into an alley that reeked of garbage and rain-soaked concrete. A black SUV sat idling, passenger door already open. Kane shoved Claire inside, following so quickly she barely had time to scramble across the seat. Drive. Kane didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. The driver, another man in dark clothes with cold eyes, slammed his foot on the gas. The SUV lurched forward, tires squealing. Claire grabbed for a seatbelt with shaking hands. Couldn't find it. Couldn't find anything, except the panic rising in her throat like bile. What? Who? I don't. The words came out broken, useless. Put your head down. Kane was looking out the back window, gun still in his hand. I need to call. My friend is expecting. I was supposed to. Claire fumbled for her purse, realized she didn't have it, had left it at the table. At the wrong table where this entire nightmare had started. Her phone. She needed her phone. She patted her dress pockets, found it, pulled it out with fingers that wouldn't stop trembling. Kane plucked it from her hand so smoothly she barely registered the movement until it was gone. Hey? The word came out sharper than she'd intended, anger cutting through fear. That's mine. Give it back. No. Kane powered the phone down, slipped it into his jacket pocket. You don't make calls. Not yet. You can't just. I have rights. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just. Her voice was climbing toward hysterical and she couldn't stop it. I was on a blind date with an accountant named Owen who probably thinks I'm the worst person alive right now, and I sat at the wrong table because I can't read numbers apparently, and you were shooting people. They were shooting first. Kane said it like that explained everything, like that made it reasonable. Claire stared at him, really looked at him for the first time since the chaos started. His suit jacket had a tear at the shoulder. Dust from the floor streaked across one sleeve. But his hands were steady, his breathing even, like this was just another Tuesday evening. Who are you? She whispered. Someone you should have stayed away from. Kane finally looked at her instead of the road behind them. What's your name? You don't even. Claire's laugh came out jagged, wrong. You don't even know my name? You're not who I was meeting. I know that much. His gray eyes narrowed slightly. You sat at my table. By accident. It was an accident. Table 7 and table 17, the numbers. She was babbling now. I was going to leave. I was about to tell you when Petrov's men tried to kill me, Kane finished, and saw you at my table, sitting across from me like you belonged there. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples of meaning spreading out until Claire understood. They thought she was with him. Whoever had shot up that restaurant thought she mattered to this man, thought she was important enough to hurt. No. Claire shook her head hard enough to make her curls bounce. No, we just tell them. We explain it was a mistake, and I'm nobody, and I teach 2nd grade, and I have 3 cats, and you think that matters? Kane's voice was soft, deadly soft. You think men like Nikolai Petrov care about the truth when a lie is more useful? The SUV turned sharply. Claire grabbed the door handle to keep from sliding into Kane's shoulder. Through the windshield, she could see they'd left the restaurant district behind. Tall buildings gave way to wider streets, upscale shops with tasteful window displays. Where are we going? She tried to keep the tremor out of her voice, failed. Somewhere safe. My apartment is the first place they'll look. Kane was back to watching the road behind them. They'll have your license plate by now, from the restaurant parking lot. Run it. Get your address, your name, where you work, everything. Claire's stomach dropped. How do you know that? Kane's expression didn't change. Because it's what I would do. The SUV pulled into an underground parking garage, descending into fluorescent-lit depths that smelled like oil and concrete. They spiraled down, 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 until Claire lost count of the levels. Finally, they stopped. Luca was there somehow, must have taken a different car. He opened Claire's door, hand extended like a gentleman helping a lady from a carriage. The absurdity of it made her want to laugh or cry or both. She ignored his hand, climbed out on her own. Her heels clicked against the concrete, too loud in the cavernous space. An elevator, private, the kind that needed a key to operate. Kane inserted one, pressed the button marked PH. Penthouse, of course. The ride up was silent, except for the mechanical hum of the elevator and Claire's pulse hammering in her ears. She could see their reflection in the polished doors. Kane, tall and composed. Luca, alert and watching her like she might bolt. And her, dress torn at the hem, hair falling from its careful style, mascara probably running from the tears she didn't remember crying. The doors opened directly into an apartment. Not an apartment, an entire floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights. Leather furniture that looked like it cost more than her yearly salary. Art on the walls, real art, the kind she'd only seen in museums. Everything in shades of gray and black and white, like color was too frivolous for whoever lived here. Guest room is down that hall, second door. Kane moved to a bar cart, poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a crystal glass, drank it in one swallow. You'll stay there tonight. Claire's voice came out as a croak. She tried again. I'll stay? I'm not staying. You're calling the police. Right now. I'm a witness. I need to give a statement. There are procedures. The police can't protect you from Petrov. But you can? The words dripped with disbelief. Kane turned to face her fully. The city lights behind him cast his face in shadow, made him look like something carved from stone, ancient, unmovable. Yes. One word. Absolute certainty. Claire opened her mouth to argue, to demand her phone back, to insist on her rights as a law-abiding citizen who paid her taxes and had never even gotten a speeding ticket. But she was tired. So tired her bones ached with it. And underneath the fear and the anger and the surreal horror of the evening, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered something she didn't want to acknowledge. This man, this dangerous, armed stranger, had thrown himself between her and bullets without hesitation, had saved her life. One night, she heard herself say, then I'm going to the police. Kane's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. We'll see. He walked past her toward the hallway, pausing at the entrance. Bathroom stocked. Take what you need. Luca will be outside your door. Like a guard dog? Like insurance. Kane's eyes met hers. Sleep if you can, Claire Morrison. She froze. How do you know my... But he was already gone, disappearing into another room and closing the door with a quiet click that sounded like a cell locking. Claire stood alone in the penthouse, city lights glittering through the windows like false stars, and finally let herself shake. Morning light filtered through curtains Claire didn't remember closing, turning the unfamiliar room into something from a dream, or a nightmare. She wasn't sure which yet. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw glass exploding inward, heard gunshots echoing off marble floors, felt Kane's hand pressing her face against cold stone. The digital clock on the nightstand read 7:43 a.m. She was still wearing the green dress. It looked worse in daylight. Torn hem, dark smudges she hoped were dirt and not blood. Her feet ached from the heels she'd finally kicked off around 3 in the morning. Claire sat up slowly, taking in details she'd missed in last night's exhausted haze. The room was bigger than her entire apartment. Cream-colored walls, minimalist furniture that probably had names in languages she didn't speak. A door that led to a bathroom with more marble and chrome than seemed structurally necessary. She'd locked the bedroom door last night, checked it 3 times. But standing here in borrowed space that smelled faintly of expensive cologne, she understood how pointless that had been. If Kane wanted in, a lock wouldn't stop him. Her stomach growled, breaking the silence. Food. She needed food and coffee and her phone back, and to call Jess before her best friend assumed she'd been murdered by the accountant. Claire cracked open the bedroom door, peered into the hallway. Empty. No sign of Luca standing guard like Kane had promised. Threatened, whatever. She stepped out barefoot, the hardwood cool against her skin. Followed the hallway back toward the main living area, moving quietly, even though she wasn't sure why she was bothering with stealth in someone else's home. Voices drifted from somewhere ahead, low, male. One of them, definitely Kane's, that controlled tone that made everything sound like a command. Claire rounded the corner and stopped. The kitchen was all steel and granite, designed by someone who probably never cooked but wanted to look like they could. Kane stood at the counter in dark slacks and a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. No jacket, no tie. A coffee maker hissed and steamed behind him. He was on the phone, speaking in clipped sentences. I don't care what excuses he has. The shipment moves tonight, or we find another distributor. Yes, handle it. He ended the call, slid the phone into his pocket, looked up and met Claire's eyes like he'd known she was there the entire time. Coffee? He said it casually, like they were colleagues catching up in a break room, instead of whatever this actually was. My phone. Claire crossed her arms. I need it back. After breakfast, Kane pulled 2 mugs from a cabinet, poured coffee into both without asking if she wanted any. Cream? Sugar? I need to call my friend. She's going to be worried sick. She already is. Kane set both mugs on the counter. She reported you missing to the police at 11:30 last night, filed a report at the precinct on Montgomery Street, gave them a description of your car and the clothes you were wearing. Ice water flooded Claire's veins. How do you... I know everything that happens in this city that matters. Kane picked up his mug, took a sip. Right now, you matter. Because your enemies think I'm connected to you? Yes. At least he was honest. Claire moved closer to the counter, drawn by the smell of coffee, despite everything. She picked up the second mug, took a drink. It was perfect. The right temperature, the right strength. Somehow, that made everything worse. You can call her. Kane pulled Claire's phone from his pocket, set it on the granite between them. But you lie. Tell her you're fine, staying with a friend, needed space, whatever story keeps her from looking for you. Lying to my best friend? Great plan. Claire reached for the phone. Kane's hand covered hers before she could grab it. His skin was warm, calloused. The touch lasted less than a second, but Claire's hand tingled where they'd made contact. If Petrov thinks she can leave him to you, she becomes a target. Kane's gray eyes held hers. Is that what you want? That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. He slid the phone toward her. Make the call. I'll be listening. Of course he would. Claire picked up her phone with shaking hands, pulled up Jess's contact, hit call. It rang once before Jess answered. Oh my God, Claire, is that you? Are you okay? Where are you? I've been losing my mind. Jess, I'm fine. I'm okay. Claire forced steadiness into her voice. Kane watched her from across the counter, expression unreadable. I'm so sorry. I should have called. Sorry? You disappeared. Owen said you never showed up to the date, and then there was a shooting at the Azure, and I thought... Jess's voice cracked. I thought you were dead. I wasn't there. The lie tasted like ash. I got cold feet, went for a drive instead, ended up at my college roommate Sarah's place upstate. Just needed to clear my head. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, you're lying to me. Claire's throat tightened. I'm not. We've been friends for 10 years. I know when you're lying. Jess took a shaky breath. Are you in trouble? Just tell me. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Kane shook his head once. Sharp, final. I promise I'm okay. Claire blinked back tears that threatened to fall. I just need a few days. Can you trust me? Another silence, longer this time. Okay. Jess didn't sound convinced. But you call me, every day, morning and night. Deal? Deal. And Claire, if someone's making you say this, nobody's making me do anything. That part was almost true. Sort of. I'll call you tonight. I love you. She ended the call before Jess could respond. Set the phone down harder than necessary. Happy now? No. Kane picked up the phone again, powered it off. But safer. She's going to keep looking for me. You don't know Jess. She's like a dog with a bone when she thinks something's wrong. I know. Kane moved to the refrigerator, pulled out eggs and vegetables, started cooking like this was normal, like he did this every morning. Luca's monitoring her movements. If Petrov makes contact, we'll know. Claire stared at him, at this man who looked like he belonged in boardrooms and expensive restaurants, but moved like violence was a second language, who made eggs in a kitchen that probably cost more than her car while discussing surveillance on her best friend. Who are you? She asked again. And don't give me some vague answer this time. I deserve the truth. Kane was quiet for a moment, cracking eggs into a pan with more skill than she'd expected. The sizzle filled the silence. Victor Kane, he said finally. I run import-export operations on the East Side. Legitimate business, mostly. Some less legitimate arrangements. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who operates in gray areas. He didn't look up from the pan. Petrov runs the North Side. We have an understanding. Stay out of each other's territory, everyone stays alive. He broke that understanding last night. Why? Because I have something he wants, or he thinks I'm moving into his territory, or just because he's bored and wanted to send a message. Kane divided the eggs between 2 plates, added toast that had appeared from somewhere, set 1 plate in front of Claire. With Nikolai Petrov, motives are fluid. Claire looked down at the food. Her stomach growled again, despite everything. She picked up the fork, took a bite. It was good, annoyingly good. "So what happens now?" she asked between bites. "I just hide here forever?" "Until I neutralize the threat." Neutralize? Claire set down her fork. "You mean kill him?" Kane met her eyes. "If necessary." The casual way he said it made Claire's skin crawl. This was who she was trapped with, a man who discussed murder over breakfast eggs. The apartment door opened. Luca walked in carrying a tablet, already talking before he'd fully entered. "We pulled the restaurant security footage before the police seized it, got clear images of Petrov's men, 3 shooters, 1 dead from your return fire, 2 escaped in a gray sedan, license plates stolen from..." He stopped. Noticed Claire sitting at the counter. She knows enough. Continue. Luca's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Petrov's asking questions, putting out feelers about who you were meeting. Word is he's offering money for information on the woman at your table." Claire's appetite vanished. How much money? $50,000. The number hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Claire couldn't finish the sentence. $50,000? People would sell out their own mothers for that kind of money. Would definitely sell out a stranger they'd glimpsed in a restaurant. "Which is why you stay here." Kane pushed his empty plate aside. "Luca, increase security on her family. Parents in the suburbs, right?" "Already done. 2 men on rotation." "Wait." Claire stood up so fast her stool scraped against the floor. "My parents? You're watching my parents?" "Protecting them." Kane's tone suggested he didn't see the difference. "Petrov will look for leverage. Family is always leverage. You can't just... They don't even know." Claire's voice rose. "I need to warn them." "No." Kane stood too, and even across the counter, his presence filled the space. "You contact them, it creates a trail. Digital or physical, doesn't matter. Petrov has people in the police, in the phone companies, everywhere that matters. So I'm just supposed to let strangers guard my parents without telling them why?" Yes. The simple certainty in that one word made Claire want to throw her coffee mug at his head. Instead, she took a breath, then another, tried to think past the panic. "How long?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "How long? Until this threat is neutralized and I can go back to my life." Kane exchanged a look with Luca. Something passed between them, an understanding that didn't need words. "Hard to say," Kane said finally. "Days, maybe weeks." "Weeks?" Claire's voice climbed again. "I have a job, students, responsibilities. I can't just vanish for weeks." "You'll call in sick, family emergency, whatever keeps them from asking questions." Kane moved around the counter, closing the distance between them. "I know this isn't what you want, but right now, it's what keeps you breathing." He was close enough now that Claire had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Close enough to see the thin scar above her left eyebrow, to catch the faint scent of expensive cologne and gunpowder. Close enough to be dangerous. "I want my life back," she whispered. "I know." Something shifted in Kane's expression, almost like regret. "But you sat at the wrong table, Claire Morrison, and now we both have to live with what comes next." 3 days felt like 3 years. Claire had mapped every inch of the penthouse, counted the books on the shelves, mostly business journals and history texts, nothing that revealed who Victor Kane actually was beneath the expensive suits. She'd read every page in her purse, besides tomorrow's bill and a couple of business cards. Nothing more than a letter from a bored uncle, or anything else that would help her break out of this place. Watched the city from floor-to-ceiling windows, feeling like a bird in a very luxurious cage. Victor came and went, sometimes in the morning, back by evening. Once, he disappeared for an entire day, returning at 2 a.m. with blood on his shirt cuff that he didn't bother explaining. Luca brought her clothes, nice ones, designers she recognized from magazines but had never imagined wearing. The sizes were all perfect, which meant Victor had someone investigate everything about her down to her measurements. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, she was just tired. Claire sat curled on the leather sofa, laptop open. Victor had provided one with restricted internet access, no email, no social media. She could read news sites and watch videos, and absolutely nothing that might give away her location. The TV, mounted on the wall, played the evening news on mute. She'd been watching obsessively, waiting to see if the restaurant shooting made headlines beyond the initial report. So far, just a mention of ongoing investigation and a request for witnesses to come forward. She'd recognized Detective Rachel Brooks in one segment, standing outside the police station with the kind of expression that said she knew more than she was telling. A door opened. Victor's office, the one room she hadn't been allowed to enter. He emerged in charcoal slacks and a black sweater that made him look less like a businessman and more like what he actually was: dangerous. "You look bored," he observed. "I am bored." Claire closed the laptop. "I've watched every true crime documentary on the internet, which feels ironic considering I'm currently living one." Victor's mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but close enough to surprise her. "There's a gym downstairs, pool on the roof, both of which require me leaving this apartment. Luca would accompany you. Because nothing says relaxing swim like an armed guard." Claire stood, stretching muscles that ached from 3 days of pacing. "I need to do something. Anything. I'm going crazy up here." Victor studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, made a call. "Bring him up." "Bring who?" The elevator chimed before Claire could finish. Luca stepped out, and behind him, a boy of about 7 with dark hair and suspicious brown eyes. "This is Marco," Victor said. "Luca's son. He's struggling with multiplication tables." The boy scowled. "I'm not struggling. Math is just stupid." "Math is the foundation of everything," Claire said automatically, her teacher voice engaging before her brain caught up. "Architecture, music, art, all of it uses math." Marco crossed his arms. "You sound like my teacher." "I am a teacher." Claire glanced at Victor, who was watching this interaction with something that might have been amusement. "What is this?" "You said you needed something to do." Victor nodded toward the dining table. "Marco needs help with homework. Problem solved." It was manipulation, obviously, but Claire found herself moving toward the table anyway, drawn by the familiar challenge of a stubborn student. Marco dumped his backpack on the polished wood surface, pulling out a worksheet covered in red marks. "Okay." Claire sat down across from him. "Show me where you're getting stuck." "All of it." But Marco pointed to a section about multiplying by 9s. "This doesn't make sense." "Sure it does. There's a pattern. See?" Claire grabbed a pen, started drawing. "When you multiply 9 times anything, the digits in the answer always add up to 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 2 plus 7 equals 9. Marco leaned closer, suspicion shifting to interest. "Always?" "Always. Math likes patterns. Once you see them, it gets easier." For the next hour, Claire forgot about the restaurant shooting, about Nikolai Petrov and his $50,000 bounty, about being trapped in a penthouse with a man who carried a gun like other people carried car keys. She just taught, explained, used the tricks she'd developed over 3 years of turning skeptical 7-year-olds into multiplication masters. Marco got 3 problems right in a row and pumped his fist in triumph. "See?" Claire grinned. "Not stupid at all. You just needed to find the pattern." "Miss Morrison is good at patterns," Victor said from behind them. Claire jumped. She hadn't heard him approach. He stood at the edge of the dining area, arms crossed, expressions softer than she'd seen before. 3 years teaching 2nd grade, she said. You learn how to spot what kids need. What do you think Marco needs? It was a strange question, too personal for the situation. But Claire looked at the boy, at the way he held himself, shoulders tight, always watching the exits like his father did. Consistency, she answered, and to know that the people around him won't disappear without warning. Something flickered across Victor's face, gone too quickly to interpret. Luca, Victor's voice carried across the apartment. Take Marco home. Homework's done. But I have more problems, Marco started. Tomorrow. Victor's tone left no room for argument. Miss Morrison will be here tomorrow. Marco gathered his things, pausing at the door. You're a better teacher than Mr. Phillips. He just gets mad when I don't understand. Then Mr. Phillips needs to be better at his job, Claire said. You're smart, Marco. Don't let anyone tell you different. The boy smiled, quick and genuine, before following his father into the elevator. Silence settled over the penthouse like dust. That was kind, Victor said finally, helping him. That's just what teachers do. Claire started cleaning up the scattered papers. We help kids. It's not some grand gesture. Still, Victor moved to the bar cart, poured 2 glasses of wine without asking if she wanted one, brought one to her. Thank you. Claire took the glass, their fingers brushing in the exchange. That same electric contact from the morning in the kitchen. She pulled away quickly. How long have you known Luca? She asked, needing to fill the silence. Since we were 16, his family worked for mine. Victor sat across from her at the table, in the same spot Marco had occupied. He's the only person I trust completely. That must be lonely. It's safe. Safe isn't the same as happy. Victor's gray eyes studied her over the rim of his wine glass. You sound like you're speaking from experience. I'm safe up here, Claire said quietly. Protected. Probably the most secure I've ever been in my life. But I'd trade all of it for one normal day where I could walk outside without armed guards, where my biggest worry was lesson plans instead of assassination attempts. I know. Victor set down his glass. For what it's worth, I didn't want you involved in this. But I am involved, because I can't read table numbers apparently. Claire laughed, but it came out bitter. One stupid mistake and my entire life implodes? Not stupid, just unlucky. Is that what you tell yourself? Claire leaned forward. That all of this is just bad luck instead of consequences? Careful. Victor's voice dropped to that dangerous register she'd learned to recognize. You don't know anything about my life or the choices that led here. Then tell me. Claire met his stare. I'm stuck in your world whether I want to be or not. At least help me understand it. For a long moment, Victor said nothing, just watched her with those storm-gray eyes that seemed to see too much. Then he stood, walked to the windows overlooking the city. Lights glittered below like a constellation trapped on Earth. I had a sister, he said finally. Younger, Sophia. She was 12 when Petrov killed her. Claire's breath caught. Victor, she wasn't involved in the business, didn't know anything, except that her big brother worked long hours and came home tired. His voice stayed level, controlled, but Claire heard the grief beneath it like a deep current. Petrov wanted to send a message about territory disputes. He sent it through a car bomb meant for me. Sophia was borrowing my car that day. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate, hollow. I've spent 9 years making sure every rule, every code I operate under protects civilians. No collateral damage, no involving families, no touching children. Victor turned to face her. Petrov doesn't have those rules, which is why you're here instead of in protective custody. Because the police can put you in a safe house, but they can't protect you from a man who'll burn down an entire building to get to one target. Claire stood slowly, moved toward him. Not too close, just close enough to matter. Is that why you threw yourself over me? She asked. At the restaurant? You didn't even know my name, but you covered me anyway. Old instincts. But Victor's expression said it was more than that. Instinct is grabbing someone and running. You stayed exposed. Put yourself between me and the shooters. Claire's voice softened. That's not instinct. That's choice. Victor's jaw tightened. I've made a lot of choices in my life, Claire. Most of them necessary. Some of them I regret. But keeping you alive isn't one I'll apologize for. They stood in the growing darkness, city lights painting shadows across Victor's face. Claire could count his heartbeats in the pulse at his throat, could see the faint silver threading through his dark hair, could feel the dangerous pull between them like gravity. She should step back, should remember who he was and what he did, and all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Instead, she asked, what happens when this is over? When Petrov is neutralized and I'm not a target anymore? You go back to your life. Victor said it like it was simple, inevitable. Teaching, your friends, your 3 cats, everything returns to normal. And you? I go back to mine. Just like that, just like that. But the way he was looking at her said it wasn't that simple at all. Claire's phone buzzed from the counter, her evening call with Jess, the one Victor allowed her to maintain as long as he listened to every word. The moment broke like a soap bubble. Victor stepped back first, distance returning to his expression. Make your call. I'll be in my office if you need anything. He left before Claire could respond, left her standing by the windows, heart racing from a conversation that had gone somewhere she hadn't expected. She picked up her phone with shaking hands, called Jess, lied about being fine, and tried to ignore the truth that was becoming impossible to deny. She was starting to see Victor Kane as more than her captor, and that scared her more than any assassin ever could. The alarm system screamed at 2:17 in the morning. Claire jolted awake, heart already racing before her brain caught up to what the sound meant. Red lights flashed in the hallway outside her room, painting everything in urgent crimson pulses. Her door crashed open. Victor filled the doorway in dark tactical pants and a black shirt, gun in hand. Not the concealed weapon he wore under suits, something bigger, military. Get up, now. No room for questions in his voice. Claire threw off the covers, glad she'd started sleeping in the leggings and t-shirt from the clothes Luca had brought, instead of the nightgown that had seemed like a good idea 3 days ago. What's happening? Security breach. East perimeter guard isn't responding. Victor grabbed her arm, pulled her into the hallway. Panic room, move. They ran through the penthouse. Luca appeared from another doorway, also armed, also dressed like he was going to war. He fell into step behind them without a word. The panic room was hidden behind what looked like a regular closet door in Victor's office. He pressed his palm to a sensor Claire had never noticed. The door slid open, revealing a small room lined with monitors, supplies, enough water and food for days. Inside, Victor's hand on her lower back, urging her forward. What about you? Handling the threat. Alone? With Luca and the rest of my team. Victor's gray eyes met hers. Something in them she couldn't name. You stay here no matter what you hear. Door locks from inside. Code is 7294. Don't open it for anyone but me. How will I know it's you? Victor paused. Then, I'll tell you that your students are lucky to have you. No one else would know that conversation. Before Claire could respond, he pushed her gently but firmly into the room. The door slid shut with a hydraulic hiss. She was alone in artificial light, with nothing but monitors showing different angles of the penthouse and surrounding building. Claire pressed her hands against the door, tried to calm her breathing, failed. On the screens, she watched Victor and Luca move through the apartment with weapons raised, saw other men in dark clothes, Victor's security team, taking positions. They moved like dancers who'd rehearsed this routine 1,000 times. Then the elevator opened. 4 men stepped out, armed, masked. They didn't bother with stealth, just opened fire immediately. Claire's hands flew to her mouth, muffling a scream. But Victor's team had expected this. They'd positioned themselves perfectly. What should have been an ambush turned into a coordinated defense that was almost beautiful in its deadly efficiency. Almost. One of Victor's men went down, then another. Claire watched Victor move through the chaos like violence was a language he spoke fluently. Every shot, elaborate. Every movement calculated. He dropped one attacker, then a second. Luca took down the third. The fourth ran for the stairs instead of the elevator. Victor followed. The monitors didn't cover the stairwell. Claire lost sight of him, left staring at screens showing an apartment painted in spent shells and broken furniture. Minutes crawled past like hours. The security team checked their fallen. One wasn't moving. The other clutched his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers, but alive. Alive was something. Where was Victor? Claire's hands were shaking so badly she had to press them against her thighs. Her breathing came too fast, too shallow. She was going to pass out or throw up, or both. The door slid open. She spun, heart in her throat. Victor stood there, a cut above his right eye bleeding down his temple, gun still in hand, eyes sharp and alert despite whatever had just happened in that stairwell. "It's over," he said. Claire launched herself at him before thinking, arms wrapping around his waist, face pressed against his chest. She felt him stiffen in surprise. Then his free hand came up, rested against her hair. "You're okay." His voice rumbled through his chest into her ear. "I've got you." "You left." The words came out muffled against his shirt. "I watched you follow that guy and then nothing, and I thought, I know." His hand moved in her hair, almost soothing. "I'm here. We're safe." Claire pulled back enough to look up at him. His gray eyes were softer than she'd ever seen them. The cut above his eyebrow still bled, dripping past his temple. Without thinking, she reached up, pressed her palm against the wound. "You're hurt. I've had worse. That's not comforting." But she didn't move her hand. They stood like that for a breath, two. The moment stretching between them like something fragile and dangerous. Then Luca's voice cut through. "Victor, we need to move the bodies before someone calls the police." Reality crashed back. Claire stepped away. Victor let her go, his expression shuddering back to that controlled mask she'd come to recognize. "Are you hurt?" He scanned her like he was checking for damage. "No, Claire wasn't okay, wasn't anywhere close to okay, but she was alive. "I'm fine." "Good." Victor turned toward the chaos of his apartment. "Luca, get a cleanup crew here. I want this place sanitized in an hour. And find out how they got past perimeter security." Already on it, Luca was on his phone, issuing commands in that same calm voice he probably used to order coffee. Claire watched them work, watched men in dark clothes arrive through the service elevator and begin the grim task of removing bodies like this was routine. Maybe for them it was. Victor returned 20 minutes later with a first aid kit. He'd changed shirts, the other presumably ruined, and washed the blood from his face, but the cut still needed attention. "Sit," Claire said, pointing to the leather sofa. "I'm fine. You're bleeding on your expensive furniture. Sit." Something that might have been amusement crossed Victor's face. He sat. Claire perched on the coffee table in front of him, opening the first aid kit. "This is going to sting. I've been shot twice, stabbed once, and broken 7 bones across my lifetime." Victor's eyes tracked her movements. "I think I can handle antiseptic." "You've been shot twice?" Claire's hand paused. "Occupational hazard." She pressed the antiseptic-soaked cotton against his cut. Victor didn't even flinch. "How do you do this?" Claire asked quietly, focusing on cleaning the wound. "Live like this every day, never knowing when someone's going to try to kill you." "You get used to it. That's sad. It's realistic." Victor was quiet while she applied butterfly bandages. "My father ran this organization before me, his father before him. I was raised knowing this life came with targets on your back. Is that what you want for Marco?" The question came out before Claire could stop it. For Luca's son to grow up the same way? No. Victor's voice hardened. Which is why Luca handles legitimate operations. Why his son goes to regular school and plays soccer and doesn't know what his father really does. But he'll figure it out eventually. Maybe. Victor caught her wrist gently as she reached for more bandages. His thumb rested against her pulse point. Or maybe Luca gets out before that happens. I've been setting up retirement funds for my people, exit strategies, so they have choices I never did. Claire stared at him. At this man who just killed people in his living room but was worried about giving his employees retirement plans. The contradiction shouldn't have made sense. Somehow it did. "You're not what I expected," she said softly. "What did you expect? A monster, probably. Someone without conscience or mercy." She set down the bandages but didn't pull her wrist from his grip. "But you're more complicated than that. Don't romanticize me, Claire." Victor's gray eyes pinned her. "I've done things that would give you nightmares, made choices that can't be undone. The fact that I have some codes doesn't make me good. I'm not saying you're good. I'm saying you're human." Claire's pulse hammered under his thumb. "And that scares me more than if you were just a monster." "Why?" "Because monsters were easy to hate, easy to fear. easy to keep at a distance. But humans, complicated, contradictory humans who saved her life and taught patience to 7-year-olds and bled when they got cut, those were dangerous in a completely different way, because it's harder to leave when this is over, Claire whispered. The words hung between them like a confession. Victor's grip on her wrist tightened almost imperceptibly. Claire, Victor, Luca appeared in the doorway. His expression said whatever he was about to report wasn't good. We identified the breach. One of the perimeter guards, Petrov, got to him, offered more money than we were paying. Victor's hand dropped from Claire's wrist. He stood, distance slamming back into place. Is the guard alive? No. He was the body in the stairwell. Good. No emotion in Victor's voice, just cold assessment. Double security protocols. I want facial recognition on every person who comes within a block of this building. And move Claire to the estate. The estate? Claire stood too. What estate? Outside the city. More secure. Private property with controllable access points. Victor was already moving toward his office. We leave in an hour. I don't get a say in this? Victor paused, looked back at her. Do you want to stay here, where Petrov knows the location and just proved he can breach security? No, but then pack what you need. We move in an hour. He disappeared into his office, Luca following. Claire stood alone in the cleaned apartment. No sign remained of the violence from earlier, except the missing furniture being replaced by the efficient crew. She walked to her borrowed room on shaking legs, sat on the bed that had become familiar over the past days. Victor was right. Staying here was suicide, but leaving for some isolated estate felt like crossing a line she couldn't uncross. Felt like admitting this situation was more permanent than she'd let herself believe. Felt like she was choosing to stay in Victor's world instead of just surviving it. Her phone sat on the nightstand. She picked it up, pulled up Jess's contact, then set it back down without calling. Because what could she say? That she was falling for a man who killed people in his living room? That she was starting to understand the difference between surviving and living, and somehow Victor Kane was teaching her about both? Jess would think she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. Claire packed her bag slowly, each item a choice, each choice feeling more significant than it should. When Victor knocked on her door exactly 1 hour later, she was ready. We need to talk, she said as they walked to the elevator, about what happens next. We will. Victor's hand found the small of her back, guiding her into the elevator. At the estate, where it's safe. The doors closed on the penthouse, on the life Claire had been trying to protect, on the illusion that any of this was temporary. The estate sat 40 minutes outside the city, hidden behind iron gates and enough security cameras to monitor a small country. Claire watched through the SUV's tinted windows as they passed checkpoint after checkpoint, armed guards nodding to Victor like he was visiting royalty, which, in this world, he probably was. The main house appeared through manicured trees, a sprawling stone structure that managed to look both elegant and fortified. Security lights illuminated the perimeter. More guards patrolled in coordinated patterns. How many people work here? Claire asked as the SUV stopped in the circular drive. 24-hour security rotation of 16, house staff of 8. Victor opened his door, came around to hers before she could reach for the handle. All vetted personally, all loyal. All armed? Most of them. He offered his hand. Claire took it, let him help her out. His palm was warm against hers, calloused in ways that suggested he'd done more than just give orders in his life. The front door opened before they reached it. A woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and sharp eyes stood in the entrance. She wore practical clothing, slacks and a cardigan, but carried herself with authority. Mr. Kane. Her voice was crisp, professional. Your suite is prepared. The guest wing has been secured per your specifications. Thank you, Grace. Victor's hand stayed on Claire's lower back as they entered. This is Claire Morrison. She'll be staying in the blue room. Grace's eyes flickered to Claire, assessment happening in half a second. Miss Morrison, welcome. If you need anything, the staff is at your disposal. The interior matched the exterior, expensive but functional. stone floors, dark wood, furniture built to last generations. Art on the walls that was probably worth more than Claire's childhood home. "I'll show you to your room," Victor said. They climbed a curved staircase to the second floor, down a hallway lined with closed doors. Victor stopped at one near the end, pushed it open. The blue room lived up to its name. Walls the color of twilight, bedding in navy and silver, curtains that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked gardens lit by subtle landscape lighting. "Bathroom through there," Victor pointed to a door. "Closet is stocked with clothes in your size. If you need anything else, pick up that phone." He indicated an antique telephone on the nightstand. "You've thought of everything." Claire set her bag on the bed. "I try to." Victor moved to the windows, checked the locks, even though security had certainly already done so. "These windows are bulletproof. Doors are reinforced steel under the wood veneer. There's a safe room in the basement if needed, but I don't anticipate requiring it. Because this place is a fortress. Because Petrov doesn't know about it." Victor turned to face her. "This property is under a shell corporation 3 layers deep. No public records connect it to me. We're invisible here." Claire walked to the windows, looked out at the dark grounds. "How long have you owned this place?" 5 years. Bought it after..." He stopped. "After your sister died," Claire finished quietly. "Yes." Victor joined her at the window. "Realized I needed somewhere off the grid, somewhere that couldn't be traced or compromised, somewhere safe." "Lonely, though." Claire glanced at him. "Big house in the middle of nowhere. Better than a target on your back in the city." "Is it?" She turned to face him fully. "Is this what you want? Hiding behind gates and guards and bulletproof windows?" "What I want doesn't matter." Victor's jaw tightened. "What keeps people alive matters." "That's not..." Her phone rang, cutting off whatever she'd been about to say. She pulled it from her pocket. Jess's name lit the screen. Victor nodded permission. Claire answered, turning slightly away. "Hey, don't hey me." Jess's voice was tight, angry. "Where the hell are you, really? I told you, I'm staying with your college roommate Sarah doesn't exist." Jess spoke over her. "I called the registrar's office, made up some excuse about planning a reunion. You never had a roommate named Sarah, so try again, and this time, don't lie to my face." Claire's heart dropped. She glanced at Victor, whose expression had gone cold. "Jess, are you in trouble? Because I swear to God, Claire, if someone is hurting you or threatening you..." "Nobody's hurting me." "Then why are you lying?" "Because the truth would put you in danger. Because Nikolai Petrov would use you to get to me. Because I'm standing in a mafia boss's fortress, and I don't know anymore if I'm a prisoner or a guest. I can't explain right now, but I promise I'm safe. I just need you to trust me." "I don't." Jess's voice cracked. "I don't trust whatever's happening, and I'm not going to stop looking for you." The line went dead. Claire stood holding her phone, staring at Jess's name on the screen. "She's going to keep digging," Victor said quietly. "I know. Petrov has people watching for anyone asking questions about you." Victor moved closer. Not touching, but close enough that Claire could feel his body heat. "Don't." Claire's voice came out sharp. "Don't finish that sentence. I'm not threatening her. I'm stating facts." Victor's tone was gentle despite the harsh truth. "Your friend's loyalty is admirable, but it's going to get her killed if she keeps searching." Claire's hands shook. She pressed them together, trying to stop the trembling. "What do I do?" "Nothing tonight. Tomorrow, Luca will make contact, anonymous, warning her to stop looking. Hopefully, that's enough. And if it's not..." Victor was quiet for a long moment. "Then we bring her in, put her under protection until this is finished." "You'd do that?" Claire looked up at him. "Protect a stranger just because she's important to me? You're under my protection." Victor's gray eyes held hers. "That extends to the people you care about." The words hung between them, weighted with implications neither of them addressed. Claire's phone buzzed, a text this time, from a number she didn't recognize. "Annual charity gala this Saturday, Riverside Hotel, black tie. You should come as my date. It's the safest place for you right now. VK." She looked up at Victor, who was watching her read. "You're texting me from across the room? I'm inviting you properly. Something that might have been amusement crossed his face. The gala is legitimate business. Politicians, donors, society people. Petrov won't try anything in that public a venue. Then why do I need to come? Because leaving you here while I'm in the city creates a security gap. Victor moved closer. Close enough now that Claire had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. And because showing up with you sends a message. What message? That you're under my protection. That touching you means war with me. His voice dropped lower. That you're mine. The possessive word should have made Claire angry, should have reminded her that she wasn't his anything, that she was just a civilian caught in crossfire. Instead, her pulse jumped. I don't have anything to wear to a gala, she managed. The closet is fully stocked. Victor's hand came up, fingers brushing her cheek so lightly she might have imagined it, including formal wear. You really do think of everything. I try to keep the people I care about safe. His thumb traced along her jaw. That includes you now. Claire's breath caught. Victor, I know this is complicated. His hand dropped away. I know I'm not what you should want, but standing here, watching you worry about your friend, seeing how you care about Marco's homework and my security team's families, he stopped, started again. You make me remember what it's like to want something beyond survival. What do you want? Claire whispered. Victor looked at her like she was a problem he was trying to solve, a puzzle with pieces that didn't quite fit. More than I should, he said finally. More than is safe for either of us. He stepped back, distance returning. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll prepare for the gala. You'll need to know how to navigate that world. He stepped at the door before Claire found her voice. Victor, he paused, hand on the doorframe. Thank you for protecting Jess, for, Claire struggled to find words, for caring. Don't thank me yet. Victor's expression was unreadable. The gala is where Petrov will make his move. I know it. He knows I know it. We're both walking into a trap, and the only question is who springs it first. Then why go? Because hiding doesn't end this. Victor's eyes met hers across the room. And I'm tired of you living in cages, Claire, even beautiful ones. He left, door closing softly behind him. Claire stood alone in the blue room, heart racing, mind spinning. Saturday, 3 days away. 3 days to prepare for a world she'd only ever seen in movies. 3 days before she walked into a ballroom on the arm of a man who killed people as easily as he poured coffee. 3 days to decide if she was going to keep surviving in Victor Kane's world or start living in it. She looked down at her phone, Jess's last text still on the screen, asking where she was. Claire typed slowly. I promise I'll explain everything when I can. Until then, please stop looking. Trust me. I love you. She hit send before she could second-guess it. Then she walked to the closet, pulled open the door. Rows of clothes greeted her, casual wear, business attire, and at the back, protected by garment bags, formal gowns. Claire pulled one out, midnight blue silk that caught the light like water. Beautiful, elegant, exactly her size. She held it up to the mirror, seeing someone she barely recognized. A woman who wore designer gowns to charity galas, who lived in fortresses guarded by armed men, who was falling for someone she absolutely shouldn't. The woman in the mirror looked terrified, but also, for the first time since sitting at that wrong table, alive. Well, enjoy the evening. Victor, we should talk about that waterfront project soon. My office will call yours. Victor guided Claire away before Porter could continue. They moved through the crowd, Victor stopping every few feet to shake hands, make small talk, introduce Claire with a casualness that belied the armed security she'd spotted positioned throughout the ballroom. Luca stood near the bar, eyes constantly scanning. Other men in dark suits tried to blend but couldn't hide the way they moved, always alert, always watching. You're good at this, Claire said during a rare moment alone. The politician thing. It's survival in a different form. Victor accepted 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter, handed one to her. Half these people know what I really do. They just don't acknowledge it in public. And the other half? Think I'm a legitimate businessman who donates to the right campaigns. His mouth curved slightly. Both versions are useful. A string quartet began playing something classical. Couples moved toward the center of the ballroom, forming pairs for the dance. Victor set down his glass, extended his hand. Dance with me. I don't really. I'll lead. His gray eyes held hers. Trust me. Claire took his hand, let him guide her onto the floor. His arm came around her waist, pulling her closer than was probably proper. But everyone else seemed to be doing the same, so maybe this was just how wealthy people danced. Or maybe Victor wanted her close for reasons that had nothing to do with propriety. You're tense, he said quietly, moving them in smooth circles. Relax. Easy for you to say. You're not wearing borrowed diamonds and pretending to belong in a world where the appetizers cost more than your weekly groceries. You do belong. Victor's voice was firm. You're here because I want you here. That's all that matters in this world. Because you say so? Because I protect what's mine. His hand tightened slightly at her waist. And right now, everyone in this room knows you're under my protection, which means you're safer here than anywhere else in the city. Claire wanted to argue that she wasn't his to protect, that she was an independent woman with her own life who didn't need a mafia boss declaring ownership. But his hand was warm against her back, and they were moving together like they'd done this 1,000 times. And somewhere in the past week, she'd started forgetting where survival ended and something else began. There. Victor's voice changed, hardened. 3 o'clock, gray suit. Claire tried not to obviously look, caught a glimpse of a man watching them with cold blue eyes and a smile that made her skin crawl. Petrov, she whispered. Yes. Victor's arm tightened. He's going to approach. Let me handle it. Victor, maybe we should. Too late. The music ended. Couples separated, applauding politely. Victor kept Claire close as Nikolai Petrov crossed the ballroom toward them. Up close, he was worse. Blonde hair slicked back with too much product. Expensive suit that somehow looked cheap on him. Eyes that assessed Claire like she was merchandise. Kane. Petrov's voice carried a slight accent. Russian, Claire thought. Beautiful evening. Petrov. Victor's tone stayed neutral, civil. I'm surprised to see you here. The mayor invited me personally. We've been discussing development opportunities on the north side. Petrov's smile widened. But I'm more interested in your date. We haven't been properly introduced. And won't be. Victor moved slightly, positioning himself between Claire and Petrov. This is a charity gala, not a networking event. Come now. Surely you're not still upset about that little misunderstanding at the Azure. Petrov's eyes flicked to Claire, then back to Victor. These things happen in our line of work. Little misunderstanding. Victor's voice dropped to something dangerous. You shot up a restaurant full of civilians. I was aiming for you. Petrov shrugged like it didn't matter. Unfortunately, my men have terrible timing. But I see you found something valuable in the chaos. His gaze raked over Claire again. Very pretty. Does she know what you are, Kane? What you do to people who cross you? Claire's hands clenched. I can speak for myself. Can you? Petrov's attention focused on her fully now. Then tell me, miss. Morrison. Claire lifted her chin, refused to look away, even though every instinct screamed danger. Claire Morrison. Petrov repeated it, like he was memorizing it, testing how it felt. Pretty name for a pretty woman. Tell me, how does a woman like you end up with a man like Victor? Wrong table, Claire said. Right man. Something flickered in Petrov's expression. Surprise, maybe? Or respect. Gone too quickly to tell. Interesting. He turned back to Victor. You always did have good taste. Shame about what happened to the last woman you cared about. What was her name? Sophia. Victor moved so fast, Claire barely saw it. 1 second, he was standing beside her. The next, his hand was at Petrov's throat, pressing just hard enough to make a point. Say her name again, Victor said softly, and we'll see how long it takes security to find your body. The ballroom had gone quiet, conversations dying as people noticed the confrontation. Luca appeared at Victor's shoulder. Boss, not here. For a heartbeat, Claire thought Victor wouldn't listen, thought he'd actually kill Petrov right there in front of 500 witnesses. Then his hand dropped. Enjoy the gala, Nikolai. Victor's voice was ice. It's the last public event you'll attend for a while. Petrov straightened his collar, smile returning like nothing had happened. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Victor took Claire's hand, already turning away. Come on. They walked toward the ballroom side exit, Luca falling into step behind them. Claire could feel Petrov's eyes on her back like a physical weight. Victor, wait, she started. Her phone buzzed in the small clutch she carried. She pulled it out, expecting Jess. Instead, an unknown number. A message with a single photo attached. Claire's blood turned to ice. The photo showed Jess sitting in what looked like a warehouse. Hands bound, tape over her mouth, terror in her eyes. Below the image, text read, "The pretty blonde asked too many questions. Come alone and she lives. Warehouse District, Pier 7. 1 hour. Bring the woman or I kill them both. NP. No." The word came out as a whisper. No, no. Victor took the phone from her shaking hands. His expression went dark. It's a trap, Luca said, reading over Victor's shoulder. Obviously. Victor handed the phone back to Claire. He took your friend. Then it worked. Claire's voice was surprisingly steady considering her entire world was collapsing. I'm going. Absolutely not. He has Jess. Claire's composure cracked. He'll kill her if I don't show up. He'll kill you both if you do. Victor gripped her shoulders. This is what he wants, to use your friend as bait, to isolate you from my protection. I don't care what he wants. Tears burned Claire's eyes. I care about saving Jess. Then let me handle it. Victor's voice was firm. My team will extract her. You stay here where it's safe. No. Claire pulled away from him. She's in danger because of me, because I sat at your table and got dragged into this world. I'm not hiding while she pays for my mistakes. Claire, I'm going, Victor, with your help or without it, but I'm going. They stared at each other. Claire waiting for him to argue, to order his security to lock her up somewhere, to take the choice away entirely. Instead, Victor turned to Luca. Get the team, full tactical. Wire Claire before we leave. Victor, this is suicide, Luca started. No. Victor's eyes never left Claire's face. It's the only play we have. Petrov wants her, he gets her, but on our terms. What terms? Claire asked. Victor's smile was cold, sharp, the expression of a man who'd built an empire on calculated violence. He thinks he's hunting you, Victor said quietly. He's wrong. We're hunting him. Luca made a call, speaking in rapid-fire instructions. Claire stood in her borrowed gown and borrowed diamonds, watching Victor transform from the civilized man who danced with her into something else entirely, something lethal. What do I need to do? She asked. Victor took her hand, brought it to his lips in a gesture that looked romantic but felt like a promise. Trust me, he said, and when this is over, I'm getting you both out alive. And Petrov? Victor's expression went cold, final. Petrov dies tonight. The warehouse district smelled like salt water and rust, forgotten buildings crouching along the waterfront like sleeping predators. Claire's heels clicked against broken pavement as she walked toward Pier 7, the wire taped between her shoulder blades, a constant reminder that she wasn't as alone as she looked. Victor's voice came through the nearly invisible earpiece. 200 yards. I have you on visual. Claire didn't respond, couldn't without giving away the surveillance, but knowing he was watching made her hands shake slightly less. The warehouse loomed ahead, corrugated metal walls tagged with graffiti, windows dark and empty, the kind of place where bad things happened and nobody heard you scream. The door stood open, waiting. Claire took a breath, stepped inside. Dim emergency lighting cast everything in sickly yellow. Metal beams created shadows that could hide anything, and in the center, tied to a chair with blood on her face. Jess. Claire, no! Jess's voice was hoarse, like she'd been screaming. It's a trap. You have to... Quiet. Petrov emerged from the shadows, gun in hand. 4 men flanked him, all armed. Miss Morrison, so nice of you to join us. Let her go. Claire stopped 20 feet away. You wanted me? I'm here. Let Jess leave. Eventually. Petrov's smile was cold. First, we wait for Kane. Because he's out there, isn't he? With his little army, thinking he's so clever. He looked directly at Claire. Tell him to come inside, alone, or I put a bullet in your friend's head. Claire's throat went dry. Petrov raised the gun, pressed it against Jess's temple. Don't lie to me. Tell him, now. Victor. Claire spoke clearly, praying the wire picked up her words. He wants you to come in alone. Static crackled in her ear. Then Victor's voice, deadly calm. Stall him. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. She needed to buy 2 minutes. How did you find her? Claire asked, taking a small step forward. Jess, how did you know to take her? Your friend was very persistent. Petrov kept the gun pressed to Jess's head, asking questions about you all over the city. Eventually, she asked the wrong person, someone who works for me. He smiled. She's loyal, I'll give her that. Didn't tell me where you were, even when my men got creative with their interrogation. Claire's stomach churned, looking at the bruises on Jess's face. You didn't need to hurt her. I needed to motivate you. Clearly, it worked. Petrov tilted his head. Kane has 90 seconds to show himself, or she dies. Your choice, Miss Morrison. I'm here. Victor's voice echoed through the warehouse before Claire could respond. He walked in through the main door, hands raised, no visible weapons, alone, like Petrov demanded. But Claire knew better. Knew Luca and the team were positioned somewhere outside. Knew Victor never walked into anything with 17 backup plans. Victor Kane. Petrov's smile widened. Finally. I was beginning to think you'd let the women die to save yourself. Let Claire and her friend go. Victor's voice was steady, controlled. Your problem is with me. My problem is that you exist. Petrov gestured with his gun. You and your codes and your rules. You make the rest of us look barbaric. You are barbaric. Victor took a step forward. You killed my sister. You've terrorized this city for years. You hurt innocent people because you can. And you don't? Petrov laughed. Please, you've killed more men than I have, Kane. Don't pretend you're better than me just because you draw arbitrary lines. Those lines matter. Victor moved again, closer. They're what separates us from animals. Touching, but irrelevant. Petrov's expression hardened. Here's what happens next. You're going to watch me kill both these women. Then I'm going to kill you. Then I'm taking over your entire territory. What terms? Claire asked. Victor's smile was cold, sharp, the expression of a man who'd built an empire on calculated violence. He thinks he's hunting you, Victor said quietly. He's wrong. We're hunting him. Luca made a call, speaking in rapid-fire instructions. Claire stood in her borrowed gown and borrowed diamonds, watching Victor transform from the civilized man who danced with her into something else entirely, something lethal. What do I need to do? She asked. Victor took her hand, brought it to his lips in a gesture that looked romantic but felt like a promise. Trust me, he said, and when this is over, I'm getting you both out alive. And Petrov? Victor's expression went cold. Final. Petrov dies tonight. The warehouse district smelled like salt water and rust, forgotten buildings crouching along the waterfront like sleeping predators. Claire's heels clicked against broken pavement as she walked toward Pier 7, the wire taped between her shoulder blades, a constant reminder that she wasn't as alone as she looked. Victor's voice came through the nearly invisible earpiece. 200 yards. I have you on visual. Claire didn't respond, couldn't, without giving away the surveillance. But knowing he was watching made her hands shake slightly less. The warehouse loomed ahead, corrugated metal walls tagged with graffiti, windows dark and empty. The kind of place where bad things happened and nobody heard you scream. The door stood open, waiting. Claire took a breath, stepped inside. Dim emergency lighting cast everything in sickly yellow. Metal beams created shadows that could hide anything. And in the center, tied to a chair with blood on her face, Jess. "Claire, no!" Jess's voice was hoarse, like she'd been screaming. "It's a trap. You have to—" "Quiet." Petrov emerged from the shadows, gun in hand. 4 men flanked him, all armed. "Miss Morrison, so nice of you to join us." "Let her go." Claire stopped 20 feet away. "You wanted me. I'm here. Let Jess leave." "Eventually." Petrov's smile was cold. "First, we wait for Kane. Because he's out there, isn't he? With his little army, thinking he's so clever." He looked directly at Claire. "Tell him to come inside, alone, or I put a bullet in your friend's head." Claire's throat went dry. Petrov raised the gun, pressed it against Jess's temple. "Don't lie to me. Tell him. Now. Victor." Claire spoke clearly, praying the wire picked up her words. "He wants you to come in alone." Static crackled in her ear. Then Victor's voice, deadly calm. "Stall him. 2 minutes. 2 minutes." She needed to buy 2 minutes. "How did you find her?" Claire asked, taking a small step forward. "Jess, how did you know to take her?" "Your friend was very persistent, asking questions about you all over the city. Eventually, she asked the wrong person, someone who works for me." He smiled. "She's loyal, I'll give her that. Didn't tell me where you were, even when my men got creative with their interrogation." Claire's stomach churned, looking at the bruises on Jess's face. "You didn't need to hurt her. I needed to motivate you. Clearly, it worked." Petrov tilted his head. "Kane has 90 seconds to show himself, or she dies. Your choice, Miss Morrison." "I'm here!" Victor's voice echoed through the warehouse before Claire could respond. He walked in through the main door, hands raised, no visible weapons. Alone, like Petrov demanded. But Claire knew better. Knew Luca and the team were positioned somewhere outside. Knew Victor never walked into anything with 17 backup plans. Victor Kane. Petrov's smile widened. "Finally. I was beginning to think you'd let the women die to save yourself." "Let Claire and her friend go." Victor's voice was steady, controlled. "Your problem is with me. My problem is that you exist." Petrov gestured with his gun. "You and your codes and your rules. You make—"
Ishing this. Victor pressed something into Claire's hand. Cold metal. A gun. "If anyone but Luca comes through that door, shoot them." He disappeared into the darkness before Claire could argue. She half-carried Jess toward where she thought North was, using the faint light from outside to navigate. Found a door, pushed through it. Luca stood there, rifle raised. He lowered it when he saw them. Inside the van, now. "Victor's still in there," Claire started. "He knows what he's doing." Luca was already herding them toward a black van. "My job is keeping you alive. His job is ending Petrov. We each do our part." Claire helped Jess into the van, climbing in after her. Through the open door, she could hear the fight continuing. More gunshots. Then silence that felt worse than noise. "Victor?" she whispered to Luca, who stood guard at the van's entrance. "Wait. 1 minute. 2. Each second stretched like hours. Then, movement in the warehouse doorway. Victor emerged, covered in blood and dust, limping slightly. Alone. "It's done." He climbed into the van, wincing. "Petrov's dead. His men are dead or running. It's finished." Claire launched herself at him, arms wrapping around his neck, despite the blood. "You're hurt." "I'm fine." But he held her tightly. "Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" "No, but Jess—" Already called it in. Luca was on his phone. "Medical team will meet us at the estate. Police are getting an anonymous tip about a shooting at Pier 7. Self-defense, witnesses will confirm." "Witnesses?" Claire pulled back to look at Victor. "My people." Victor's hand came up, cupped her face. "Everything's handled. You're safe now, both of you." Jess made a sound, half laugh, half sob. "Claire, what the hell is happening? Who are these people?" Claire looked at her best friend, at the fear and confusion and pain in her eyes, at the questions that deserved answers. "It's a long story," she said quietly, "but the short version is I sat at the wrong table on a blind date and everything changed." "The wrong table?" Just stared at her. Then at Victor. "This is the guy from the restaurant?" "Yes." "And he's what? A bodyguard? A cop?" "Neither." Claire took Jess's hand. "I'll explain everything, I promise. But right now, you need medical attention, and I need to make sure you're safe." The van started moving, taking them away from the warehouse and the bodies and the violence. Victor's hand found Claire's in the darkness, fingers interlacing. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "about all of this. You should never have been involved." "But I was." Claire squeezed his hand. "And Jess paid the price for my mistakes." "Not your mistakes." Victor's voice was firm. "Mine. For not ending Petrov years ago when I had the chance. For letting him operate in my city. For saving my life," Claire interrupted. "For protecting me when you didn't have to. For going into that warehouse even though it was a trap. That wasn't heroism. That was necessity." But Victor's grip on her hand tightened. It was both. Claire leaned against his shoulder, exhaustion finally catching up. "You're both, Victor. Necessary and heroic. Dangerous and protective. You're everything I shouldn't want and exactly what I need. Claire, I know." She closed her eyes. "I know this is complicated. I know you're not some romance novel hero who's going to retire from crime and will live happily ever after. But I also know that I'm not the same person who sat at that wrong table 2 weeks ago." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I choose this. You, whatever this is." Claire opened her eyes, met his gaze in the dim light. "If you want me to stay." Victor was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled her closer, lips brushing her forehead. "I want you to stay. But not because you feel obligated or grateful or because I'm falling for you." Claire said it plainly, simply. "Because somewhere between the gunfights and the panic rooms and teaching Marco his multiplication tables, I started seeing you, all of you, and I'm not running. You should." But Victor's arms tightened around her. "You should run far away from me and never look back." "Probably." Claire smiled against his shoulder. "But I've never been good at doing what I should." Jess made a sound that might have been a laugh or a groan. "This is insane. You know that, right? This is completely insane." "I know." Claire reached for her friend's hand too, holding both her past and her future. "Are you okay? Really?" "No." Jess squeezed back. "But I will be, and we're going to have a very long talk about your taste in men." "That's fair." The van drove through the night, carrying them toward the estate and safety and whatever came next. 2 weeks later, Claire stood at the back of her classroom watching 20 second graders work on a math worksheet. The normalcy of it should have felt strange after everything. Instead, it felt grounding, real. The door opened. Victor stood there in a suit, carrying 2 coffee cups. He'd been doing this every afternoon, showing up during her planning period with coffee and conversation and normalcy that they were both still learning to navigate. "Mr. Kane," Claire smiled, accepting the coffee. "You're early," he said to the empty classroom, the cover story they'd agreed on. Very official. Claire took a sip. Perfect, as always. "How was your day?" "Boring meetings about legitimate import-export contracts." Victor moved closer. "Marco asked when you're coming over again. Apparently, I'm terrible at explaining fractions. You run a criminal empire but can't explain halves and quarters? I prefer problems with more permanent solutions." But Victor smiled. "Come to dinner tonight? Grace is making her famous lasagna. As long as Luca promises not to glare at me the entire time. He's warming up to you. He threatened to run a background check on my parents last week. That's him warming up." Claire laughed, the sound echoing in the empty classroom. They'd been doing this, building something new from the wreckage of that wrong table. It wasn't easy. Victor still disappeared on business she didn't ask about. She still had nightmares about warehouses and gunfight. But they were trying. "I'll come to dinner," Claire said, "but only if you help me grade these worksheets." "Deal." Victor pulled up a chair, sitting like he belonged there. And somehow, impossibly, he did. Because there was no right table, no perfect moment, no fairy tale ending that wrapped everything in a neat bow. There was just this, stolen moments and imperfect choices, and 2 people who found each other in the chaos and decided to stay. It was messy and complicated and dangerous. It was exactly right. "Claire, I know." She closed her eyes. "I know this is complicated.
I know you're not some romance novel hero who's going to retire from crime and will live happily ever after. But I also know that I'm not the same person who sat at that wrong table 2 weeks ago. What are you saying? I'm saying I choose this. You, whatever this is. Claire opened her eyes, met his gaze in the dim light. If you want me to stay. Victor was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled her closer, lips brushing her forehead. I want you to stay. But not because you feel obligated or grateful or because I'm falling for you. Claire said it plainly, simply. Because somewhere between the gunfights and the panic rooms and teaching Marco his multiplication tables, I started seeing you, all of you. And I'm not running. You should. But Victor's arms tightened around her. You should run far away from me and never look back. Probably. Claire smiled against his shoulder. But I've never been good at doing what I should. Jess made a sound that might have been a laugh or a groan. This is insane. You know that, right? This is completely insane. I know. Claire reached for her friend's hand too, holding both her past and her future. Are you okay? Really? No. Jess squeezed back. But I will be. And we're going to have a very long talk about your taste in men. That's fair. The van drove through the night, carrying them toward the estate and safety and whatever came next. 2 weeks later, Claire stood at the back of her classroom, watching 22nd graders work on a math worksheet. The normalcy of it should have felt strange after everything. Instead, it felt grounding, real. The door opened. Victor stood there in a suit, carrying 2 coffee cups. He'd been doing this every afternoon, showing up during her planning period with coffee and conversation and normalcy that they were both still learning to navigate. Mr. Kane, Claire smiled, accepting the coffee. You're early, he said to the empty classroom, the cover story they'd agreed on. Very official. Claire took a sip. Perfect, as always. How was your day? Boring meetings about legitimate import-export contracts. Victor moved closer. Marco asked when you're coming over again. Apparently, I'm terrible at explaining fractions. You run a criminal empire but can't explain halves and quarters? I prefer problems with more permanent solutions. But Victor smiled. Come to dinner tonight? Grace is making her famous lasagna. As long as Luca promises not to glare at me the entire time. He's warming up to you. He threatened to run a background check on my parents last week. That's him warming up. Claire laughed, the sound echoing in the empty classroom. They'd been doing this, building something new from the wreckage of that wrong table. It wasn't easy. Victor still disappeared on business she didn't ask about. She still had nightmares about warehouses and gunfight. But they were trying. I'll come to dinner, Claire said, but only if you help me grade these worksheets. Deal. Victor pulled up a chair, sitting like he belonged there, and somehow, impossibly, he did. Because there was no right table, no perfect moment, no fairy tale ending that wrapped everything in a neat bow. There was just this, stolen moments and imperfect choices, and 2 people who found each other in the chaos and decided to stay. It was messy and complicated and dangerous. It was exactly right.